Picture this. It's Christmas morning in Clifton. Most families are gathered around their hearths, celebrating the day. Streets lined with frost, a rare quiet in the usual industrial bustle of the town.
You can almost picture it, can't you? That serene stillness that usually doesn't last long in a place like Clifton.
But not far away, at the Chloride Electrical Syndicate's works, the atmosphere was starkly different. You see, the plant had closed for the holiday, but a small group of workers was busy completing scheduled maintenance on the gasometer, a task that would end in terrible tragedy.
The work involved removing the gas holder. It seemed straightforward enough.
But it wasn't. To replace the holder, they had to remove the brickwork enclosing it. The foreman, Fitchett, instructed the team, including Walter Crankshaw, to cut a manhole for easier access to the pipework. That's where things went horribly wrong.
And it's the decision to enter the gas holder itself
that sealed their fate. Fitchett, an experienced worker, fully aware of the danger of carbon monoxide fumes, inexplicably chose to carry on. Crankshaw went in first, followed by Chapman. Fitchett himself followed when he realised something was wrong, but by then the fumes had already taken hold.
Carbon monoxide works fast, doesn't it? Silent, colourless, odourless. Horrific to think about.
It's chilling, Eric. Crankshaw was overcome immediately, unable to escape. Chapman followed. Fitchett went in to rescue them, but
was affected almost instantly. The gas fumes don't discriminate. They incapacitate. A nearby worker, Charles Poston, managed to help Chapman out, but even that effort came too late.
Doctors rushed to save them, trying everything they could, but the damage, the asphyxiation and carbon monoxide poisoning, was irreversible. Crankshaw and Fitchett passed away on the spot. Chapman clung to life for a week, but died of his injuries on New Year's Day.
It's devastating. These were people just trying to do their jobs. And on Christmas Day, no less.
A sequence of events that should have never happened. No safeguards, no preparation for what was essentially a lethal environment. It's heartbreaking. The tragedy at the Chloride Electrical Syndicate's works is staggering enough on its own. But what strikes me most is how ordinary the lives of those lost really were. Walter Crankshaw, for instance, was a man in his late 20s, married just a few years, trying to build a life with his wife Mary. They lived humbly in Pendlebury and were looking toward the future. But that future just vanished in an instant.
Yeah, it's really sad, isn't it? This wasn't just a workplace accident, it shattered families. I mean, Mary would have been left to pick up the pieces. Her life forever changed.
And Walter's story isn't unique here. Take Charles Fitchett, for instance. A father of 5, his youngest was only 10 months old. Can you imagine the ripple effect of his death on that family? His wife Sarah not only lost her husband, but had to figure out how to provide for all of them, without any kind of modern safety net.
And then there's William Chapman, who held on for a week after the accident. He had a young family too, a wife, Martha, and 2 little kids, Dorothy and Percy. When he passed away, Martha must have felt the weight of the world on her shoulders.
Ordinary people caught in extraordinary and tragic circumstances. What's terrible, Eric, is how little regard there seemed to be for workplace safety at the time.
It's hard to fathom now. So, you see a contrast to what was happening elsewhere.
Yeah, well, around the same period, factories were just beginning to implement some basic safety measures. Things like ventilation and protective gear. But those were anomalies, not the norm. In Clifton, the tragedy revealed how utterly unprepared they were to deal with the dangers of enclosed spaces and harmful gases like carbon monoxide.
It's a stark difference, one that cost lives here. And the doctors, Berry and Herbert, they must have been at their wits' end trying to help given the conditions they were working under.
They were, Eric. They tried everything they could. Imagine being called to a scene where lives are literally slipping away in front of you. The tools and knowledge they had were so limited by today's standards. They worked tirelessly to resuscitate Crankshaw and Fitchett, but it was a losing battle.
And even with Chapman, who made it to the hospital, the damage was just too severe. You can sense how helpless they must have felt.
It's haunting, really, to know that these men, These husbands, fathers, brothers were victims not just of an accident, but of a broader disregard for safety and preparation in the workplace. In January 1902, the inquiry into the deaths took place at Pendlebury Town Hall. Coroner J.F. Price presided, and the verdict was death by misadventure, casting the tragedy as accidental. But what really struck me were the testimonies. The details they revealed painted a harrowing picture of neglect and systemic failure. George Grindle, the works manager, mentioned that Fitchett was given explicit instructions to remove the brickwork from the outside of the gas holder. But somehow those instructions were ignored, or misunderstood, leading Fitchett to go inside. Why would such an experienced foreman make that call? That's the dreadful mystery, isn't it? Fitchett surely knew the lethal risks of carbon monoxide, yet he went in. And it wasn't just him. Charles Poston testified that Fitchett ordered a manhole to be cut in the top, directly exposing the workers to the gas fumes. It's an error in judgment that cost 3 lives.
But then, Lydia, doesn't that raise a bigger issue about the environment these men were working in? No safeguards, no protocols for dealing with hazardous gases. Would a basic ventilation system have made a difference?
And it's infuriating to consider just how preventable this was. The Chloride works clearly didn't prepare for the dangers their workers faced. No protective equipment, there was no real safety culture to speak of.
It's like they were relying on luck rather than responsibility. And the company paying for the funerals, while thoughtful, it doesn't undo the damage, does it? 3 families were upended.
No, it really doesn't. This tragedy became a wake-up call. While there's no direct record of sweeping legislation immediately after, events like these were the catalysts for workplace safety reforms in the years that followed. Conversations about the dangers of industrial workplaces began to emerge, pushing factories to adopt better practices over time.
So in a way, their loss planted the seeds for change. Maybe some good came from all this darkness. Did the community rally together after? It must have been such a heavy blow.
It was. Swinton and Pendlebury saw an outpouring of grief and solidarity. Funeral processions for Fitchett and Crankshaw drew substantial crowds. And for Chapman, his wife Martha had to collect funds for flowers from his pockets, yet she still thought to send them to the other families. It says so much about the shared resilience and compassion of the people affected.
It's humbling, really. These were hard-working, ordinary people caught in a moment of unimaginable tragedy. And their stories linger. You see their names in records, their families' lives carrying on in the decades after. But you also see the broader significance. How this incident, horrible as it was, spurred change in industrial safety practices. It's a poignant reminder of the human cost of progress.
Charles Fitchett and William Chapman were both buried in family plots in Swinton Cemetery. Walter Crankshaw was buried close to his family in nearby Radcliffe.